Hello my dear students, I am WS Omega and I am an English teacher. Dear students of class 10, today I shall be taking up the 5th chapter from your English literature reader, Prose section, chapter number 5 on saying please. This is an essay on civility by Alfred George Gardiner. So A.G. Gardiner in short, 1865 to 1946 was a British journalist and author. From 1915, he used to contribute to the magazine The Star under the pseudonym Alpha of the Plough. He became the editor of the Daily News and became a successful editor. As an essayist, he wrote on social problems, and so this essay on saying please deals on the theme courtesy, which means the showing of politeness, civility, which means formal kind of politeness, morality, which means principles about right and wrong, responsibility, sense of duty, and control, which means the power to influence other people's behavior. In schools, children of lower classes, they learn the 3 magic words. And so, what are the 3 magic words? They are please, sorry, and thank you. It is these words that keep our relationships between people and the channel of life flowing. According to A.G. Gardiner, he believes that people must learn to be as polite as possible, but then also to accept impoliteness when it occurs to us as a part of life. In our everyday lives, we come across different kinds of people. Here in this essay, we will learn about manners and how it has a great impact on our everyday lives. The writer writes about 2 very important incidents in his essay. The first is about a liftman and the second is about a bus conductor. So one day, a young liftman, a liftman is one who operates a lift especially in big buildings and hotels. So this young liftman, he threw a passenger out of his lift. So what happened was, a passenger came inside the lift and said, "Top." He meant that he wanted to go to the top floor and asked the liftman to press the button for him. But the liftman demanded, "Top, please." The liftman wanted the passenger to add please. It was just a matter of saying please, but the passenger did not want to say please at all. Maybe he thought the liftman was inferior to him and so he need not say please. Then the young liftman got angry and threw the passenger out of his lift. He was undoubtedly in the wrong. The liftman was obviously wrong because he used violence. The liftman took the matters of manners too far. The liftman was fined by the law, but the passenger who did not say please was acquitted by the law. Means he was not punished. The passenger was not punished at all. He did not say please, but he was not punished at all. Now, there are certain situations where violence is reasonable. For example, if a thief enters inside my house, I can knock him down, I can punch him as a part of self-defense because the burglar has already broken the law by breaking into my house. The law will not punish me for knocking him down, but the burglar will be punished. But the law punished the liftman for using violence unreasonably. Because there is no law that compels us to say please, and there is no law to punish us for not saying please. If at all there has been such a law for bad manners, and if we are free to box other people's ears every time we dislike other people's behavior or their ugly voice, then our gutters, the nala, would be running with blood the whole day. Even if I am ill-mannered, the law will protect me against any damage from other people. I may be very uncivilized, haughty, and boorish, but there is no punishment for that. Only the thing is, people will mark me as an ill-mannered fellow. But again, that does not mean that the damages done by my bad behavior are negligible. Bad manners is infectious. It is like a contagious disease. The writer gives an example of bad manners being infectious. So, the writer gives an example of bad manners being infectious. So this Sir Anthony Absolute, let's say an officer, Sir Anthony Absolute is a high-ranking officer. He bullied his junior, Captain Absolute. So this Captain Absolute went out and bullied his man, Fag. And this man, Fag, he went downstairs and kicked the page boy. A page boy is, here it means a boy who runs errands. Actually, it's a boy who looks after, who assists the bride in a wedding, like a ring boy. So here, this man, Fag, went downstairs and kicked the page boy. And so the writer A.G. Gardiner assumes that the man who did not say stop, please, only had a bad mood because his employer did not wish him good morning. Maybe the employer did not wish him good morning because he had been handpecked by his wife. Handpecked means being controlled by his wife at home. And this wife, the employer's wife, handpecked her husband because her cook had been very rude to her. And the cook was rude to her because the housemaid had answered her back. The writer also says that the law cannot become the guardian of our private manners. There are many people who live under the shadow of ill temper. There can be no law to look over our speech, our social civilities, the tilt of our eyebrows, and all our moods and manners. There is no law that forces us to say please, but the practice of saying please and thank you had been a very old social practice. We have been using these words since the very beginning of days. The words please and thank you can make a small change in our everyday lives. They are the little curtsies that keep the machine of life oiled and running sweetly. The second incident the author wants to mention is about a polite conductor, a polite bus conductor. A very rare type of a conductor. Usually, the writer finds conductors who regard their passengers as their enemies, but he came across a very polite conductor. The writer first came to know of this bus conductor when one day he found that he had left home without any money in his pocket. If you too have come across this kind of situation, you would also know how the writer would have felt. He was annoyed and angry because he looked like a fool for not having money at all in his pocket. He thought the conductor might not believe him, as there are many people who try to dupe the bus conductors. But then the bus conductor told him not to get off the bus, as he would pay for his tickets, and he even bought him tickets for the entire day for other bus rides too. The writer asked him how he could pay him back. But the bus conductor said that they would meet again someday and he could pay him back. But at last, the writer found some stray coins in his pocket and paid him back. So whenever the writer rode on his bus, he found that the bus conductor had an inexhaustible patience. And he made the passengers on his bus feel so comfortable. A ride on his bus made him feel like he was learning lessons on good manners. So one day, the bus conductor trampled on the feet of the writer on the bus. The writer looked up with anger and pain. When he looked up who it was who trampled his feet, it was the polite conductor, and he asked for forgiveness. And so, even if the writer felt so much of pain, he forgave the conductor, saying that it was all right. During rainy days, the polite conductor used to help the passengers to get a seat on the bus. He was so considerate with the old people and even with the young people too. He would even help blind people to cross the road. And so, the writer says, if bad manners are infectious, like the incident of Sir Anthony Absolute, who bullied his junior, then good manners are also infectious, like the bus conductor who infected his passengers with his good manners. If we face incivility, most of us are apt to become uncivil. But for the bus conductor, it was always a sunny day for him. He infected the passengers with his good manners, and in doing so, he lightened his own work. After some time, the bus conductor changed his route, and the writer could not meet him anymore. but he believed that the conductor had carried his sunshine, his good manners, onto another road. In the poem On the Lonely Moor, written by William Wordsworth, the poet himself says that he could learn lessons from the poor leech gatherer. A leech gatherer is someone who gathers leech, kakpei phaba. It means that even we can learn a lot from ordinary people. We must learn to be polite as much as possible. The polite man may lose the material advantage, but he always has the spiritual victory. We cannot confront other people's bad behaviors by using physical violence. Here in this relation, the writer wants to recommend the liftman, the liftman who threw a passenger out of his lift for not saying please, a story of a man called Chesterfield. One day, this man Chesterfield was walking along a road and there were no pavements in London during those days. It was quite muddy, and when Chesterfield was coming this way and another man was coming the other way. And the other man said to Chesterfield like this, "I will not give my way to a scoundrel." A scoundrel means a person who is dishonest, which means that the man was saying that Chesterfield was a scoundrel. But Chesterfield replied, "But I will give my way to scoundrels," which means that Chesterfield was implying that the other guy was a scoundrel himself and not Chesterfield. So by saying that, Chesterfield moved away and gave way for the other guy to walk through. And so likewise, if the liftman, instead of getting offended by the passenger, if he had treated him more politely, that itself would have been a sweet revenge. A revenge in a good way. It would have made the passenger more embarrassed about his own behavior. And so the lesson is, how do we treat people who are impolite to us? By treating them with more politeness. And so, dear students, this is a lesson, and from this essay written by A.G. Gardiner, you must have learned some lessons on courtesy, civility, morality, responsibility, and control. I hope that you learned this lesson well and apply it in your daily lives. Thank you so much.